Never thought my life would turn out like this. 10 years of marriage, 2 beautiful kids, a house in the suburbs. I thought we had it all. But sometimes, the things you think are solid are built on the shakiest foundations. This is the story of how my wife Sarah betrayed me in the most unimaginable way, and how I'm still trying to pick up the pieces. The beginning of the end. It started with small changes. Sarah began staying late at work, claiming she had meetings or projects that couldn't wait. At first, I didn't think much of it. She's always been a hard worker, and I admired her dedication. But then the excuses started piling up. She'd go out for errands and come home hours later, smelling like cheap soap and something else I couldn't quite place. She'd be distant, lost in thought, and when I asked if everything was okay, she'd just smile and say, "I'm fine." But she wasn't fine, and neither was I. Something felt off, like the air in our house was heavier, charged with secrets. I tried to ignore it, to push the nagging doubts aside. After all, we'd been through so much together. We'd built a life, a family. She wouldn't throw that away, would she? The first red flag? The first real red flag came one evening when I was helping our youngest with her homework. Sarah's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, and I glanced at it out of habit. The notification read, "Miss you, can't wait for tomorrow." My stomach dropped. I didn't recognize the number, but the tone of the message was unmistakable. I didn't confront her right away. I told myself it was nothing, maybe a wrong number or a friend joking around. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it grew like a weed, choking out my peace of mind. The investigation. Not proud of what I did next, but I couldn't help myself. I started paying closer attention to Sarah's behavior. I checked her phone when she wasn't looking, scrolled through her messages, and even followed her once when she said she was going to the grocery store. That's when I saw him. He was standing on the corner near the gas station, holding a sign that said "Anything helps." I'd seen him before, a scruffy guy in his 40s with a worn-out jacket and a beard that hadn't seen a trim in years. Sarah pulled up in her car, rolled down the window, and handed him a brown paper bag. I thought it was just her being kind, maybe giving him some leftovers or a few dollars. But then she got out of the car, and I realized that there was one sheet of paper in the digital roll, a dollar bill. Then she got out of the car. They talked for a few minutes, and then, I still can't believe I'm saying this, she hugged him. Not a polite, friendly hug, but something more intimate. My heart raced, and I felt like I was going to be sick. What the hell was going on? The confrontation. That night, I confronted her. I didn't want to, but I couldn't keep it bottled up anymore. I showed her the messages I'd found on her phone and asked her point blank, "Who is he, Sarah? And what the hell is going on?" You know what? It's not fair. It's also not fair. I was already going through it. At first, she denied it. She said he was just someone she'd been helping, that she felt sorry for him. But when I told her I'd seen her with him, she broke down. She admitted they'd been seeing each other for months. Months. She said it started innocently. She'd bring him food, they'd talk, and somehow it turned into something more. "Something more?" I shouted. "You're my wife. We have a family. How could you do this?" The exchange lasted several minutes, until at first I thought everyone left except for him. But later, I realized some of the other partners might not have been there. She didn't have an answer, at least not one that made sense. She said she didn't know why she did it, that it wasn't about love or attraction. She said he made her feel needed, like she was making a difference in someone's life. Apparently, I wasn't giving her enough attention, and he filled that void. The aftermath. I kicked her out that night. She's staying with her sister now, and we're headed for divorce. But the worst part isn't the betrayal. It's the questions that keep haunting me. Why him? What did he have that I didn't? Was I really that bad of a husband? Uh, I've replayed every moment of our marriage in my head trying to figure out where I went wrong. Was it because I worked too much? Because I didn't tell her I loved her enough? Or was it something deeper, something broken in her that I couldn't fix? Every time I pass that corner and see him sitting there, I feel this rage bubbling up inside me. How could she do this to us? To me? To our kids? I'll never understand it. The twist. But here's the kicker. A few weeks after the truth came out, I found out something else. He wasn't just some random homeless guy. Turns out he's a former addict who lost everything, his job, his family, his home, because of his addiction. Sarah had been volunteering at a shelter before we got married, and she recognized him from back then. She said she felt like she could save him, that she could be the one to turn his life around. It doesn't make it any better. If anything, it makes it worse. She threw away our marriage, our family, for some misguided savior complex. And for what? He's still on the streets, still holding that sign, still living the same life. Meanwhile, I'm left picking up the pieces of mine, which basically forces me to kind of push ahead and put like the fallout. The kids don't know the full story yet. They think mom is staying with Aunt Lisa because she's working through some things. But sooner or later, they'll find out the truth. And when they do, I don't know how I'll explain it to them. How do you tell your kids that their mother betrayed everything we stood for? As for me, I'm trying to move on. I've started therapy, and I'm focusing on being the best dad I can be. But some days, the anger and the hurt are too much to bear. I look at my wedding ring, now sitting in a drawer, and I wonder how something so beautiful could turn into something so broken. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more wild stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.